Welcome to Dividing Truth. I am your host, Lexi Johnson, and we're here with yet another episode. We are a weekly podcast where we are providing financial truths that are dedicated to helping women professionals and women entrepreneurs become financially free in uncertain times. We want to help you to think differently and to master your money. So on today's episode, it's entitled "It Starts with You" because your financial freedom definitely starts with you, right? So before we get into our episode, I just want to share with you that if you haven't visited our website already, please make sure you do so. It is running at the bottom of the screen for you. It's www.radiowave4u.com. Subscribe to the website so that you can be notified, when all of the different podcasts are coming out, including Dividing Truth, right? And I also have a Facebook group called Dividing Truth with Lexi. So you can simply search in Facebook for Dividing Truth. I'll post the link a little bit later regarding that. But I'm excited to talk with you all today about it starts with you. It starts with you. Your financial freedom starts with you. Oftentimes we feel like, we're owed, right? Like this information or, some this should just come to us. I've worked so hard or whatever, for whatever reason we think that we are owed something, but that's not always the case. Oftentimes you have to go out and get what it is that you want, right? And it's no different when we're talking about financial freedom, right? No different when we're talking about financial freedom. And so with financial freedom, it's the same. I hear excuses all the time about, oh, we don't have access to information. Oh, I just don't know where to start, or I don't know where. And I'm not saying that these things are completely excuses. They're okay, right? When you are starting out to say that this is your situation, but to continue to say those things after weeks and after months, weeks and months, that's just simply you not wanting to become financially free. So I thought today I would share my story and talk more about how it starts with you, because definitely my financial freedom started with me, right? So I wanted to share my story in hopes that many of you out there that are listening, that you can relate, that you pick up some wisdom or some nuggets or something that helps you to make your first step or your next step in achieving your financial freedom. Because at this day and age, there is nothing holding us back. Nothing. It's not your job. It's not government. It's not the rich. There are no excuses because the information is out there, right? And so we're going to be talking about a lot of that today. So, in 2008, I lost everything. Okay. I lost everything, from my house to my car to my job. Marriage ended, um, just everything. Okay. And it was truly financially devastating. Right. And so before I talk a little bit more about the things that I lost, and I don't want to spend too much time talking about that, I just want to give you a little bit of background about who I am, so you all understand why I ended up here in the financial services industry, why I am doing a podcast on finances, why finances become such an important part of my life, and why I'm passionate about helping other people to become financially free. So, just to give you a little bit of background, my parents were not born in this country. My parents came from Central America, and they came when they were in their teens, and which really, how I ended up financially really doesn't have much to do with like where they came from, but I just wanted to give you a little bit, just give you a little bit of background. So my parents came obviously in search of, better. America was and is still positioned as that country, right, to come to if you want to do better, if you want to, especially financially, right? So my parents came over here in their teens, and um, when they got married and had children, I was the first of their three children. There was one thing that they wanted to make sure that we had, and that was success, right? Success in everything. They were firm believers in education. They were firm believers in being able to do well, for yourself financially, right? So my father at the time was working in the steel mills in the Midwest, right? Because at that time, the steel mills were booming, right? They were, if you got a job there, like you were pretty much, you were set for life. And that was the case with my father, right? So he had ended up getting this job at the steel mill through my mother's aunt. And that allowed us to move to the Midwest. I'm saying us because they were pregnant with me at the time. And it was a pretty good, it was a pretty good life. Now we were not rich, but in any, by any means, but my parents did okay, right? Even after they divorced, I mean, my mom struggled some. She found her way. She did, have to have some state assistance and things like that. But my father, he eventually kind of did things what he was supposed to do as far as his children were concerned financially. So there was some struggle. Um, there was definitely, so since we're talking about, my parents and them splitting, um, I think that was the beginning of, where my mom was teaching us about being financially free and, knowing as much as she could, right? Because she didn't know what she didn't know. So she took it upon herself to learn a lot of things, including teaching herself how to drive, teaching herself how to manage finances because my father had done all that. And so, I think those were the early seeds of, learning how to take care of yourself. And again, like I said, she didn't know what she didn't know, right? It wasn't like she was a guru in finances or anything like that, but she taught us some basics: save your money, save for rainy days, save for things that you want, pay cash, save for, so she taught us a lot about saving. And she also taught us, how to use our checkbook ledgers, very basic things, right? So nothing extravagant, nothing, um, I say complex, but nothing in finance is necessarily complex, right? So when I say she didn't teach us anything complex, I mean things like investing, and all of those other things, right? Because she didn't really know much about that. You can't teach what you don't know, right? So she also taught us, or continued to, um, tell us how important education was. And so, all of her children have gone to school, gone to college, gotten degrees or certifications, this, that, or the other. And so, fast forwarding now to when I was heading off to college, this was a huge thing. It was a huge deal because neither of my parents had completed college. My father didn't go at all. My mom took a class here or there, but never finished. And so this was a huge thing, right? We were the first generation to really go to college and get degrees. So my mom had fallen into or learned the what it took to achieve the American dream, which was go to school, get your degree, get a great paying job, right? Work that job until you retire, and then retire well, because at that time when my parents were coming up, obviously there were pensions and things like that, right? So who knew that by the time I would really be getting settled into adulthood, that those things were beginning to change, right? Companies weren't really giving out pensions anymore. Um, Cost of living, was continuing to go up, and dramatically so. So, there were some changes that no longer, well, you all know, no longer in this day and age is it like, okay, go to school, get your degree, get a great paying job, work that job until you retire, and then you have this great pension, right? That's going to just help you to become financially free. Well, that's not the case anymore. Like I said, jobs are not giving pensions. It's even amazing if you even are able to stay on a job for uh, I don't know, 30 plus years, 40 plus years, right? That just does not exist anymore. People are doing good if they're at a place 10 years, and that's for a lot of reasons on both sides, right? There are employers who, they are doing things differently, mergers and acquisitions and all kinds of things going on, uncertainty going on within the company. And so there's that causes a lot of movement, right? There are a lot of people who may make it through all of these different changes. The laying off and hiring and laying off and hiring and all of that, trying to keep up with, what's going on in the economy. So you've got that going on. And then on the other side, where it's, us, the people, the employees, right? We also aren't looking to stick around at places for 15, 20, 30, 45 years, right? We're always looking now for upward mobility or change or, so many people, I mean, don't get me wrong, there are still some people who desire to um, get hired with a company and just stay there for as long as they can stay there. But a lot of people aren't that way anymore. The moment they don't see that they're growing, they're looking for something else, right? And I know that was the way it was with me. So needless to say, right, as I was going through college and getting into adult life and stepping into this money game, things were changing, right? Things were changing. And so it wasn't the case that automatically that a generation would do better financially than the generation before, right? Now we were having to do more things to make sure that that was the case. And if you did not understand that that was what was going on, then you were going to struggle. You were going to have a difficult time. And that's what happened to me, right? I was still under the teaching that, I go to this job and I work this job and I, retire and have a nice life. And when I began working, again, like I said, pensions were fading out, right? Now you have the 401ks that were coming in. And listen, people, the 401ks, while many people kind of thought, okay, this is to replace the pension, yes and no, right? So, yes, in the fact that you had some type of investment to contribute to through your job, right? But no, because this was not a defined investment anymore, meaning that when you retired, now you were going to get a set amount of money, each month um, throughout your retirement. No, this was whatever you saved now, okay? You would be able to withdraw that at retirement, so much per month until it ran out. And maybe it lasts you through your entire retirement. Maybe it didn't. Now it was up to the employees to really keep on top of this 401k investment. And what most people didn't know and understand was that the 401k really was just designed as a supplement. It was not like the pension. It was a supplement now, and that you were going to have to do something above and beyond outside of your job, in order to be financially free. Well, anyway, as I began working and living life, things were great. I was doing maybe not necessarily in the order that I should have, but I was living the American dream, right? I got my degree. I had had a child, prior to graduating, but I did not let that stop me. After graduating, I got me a good job and met a gentleman, got married, had, a couple more children, and bought a home, had cars, so things were good. We wanted to travel, we traveled, so things were good, right? Except that I didn't know what I didn't know about finances. And so when the point of devastation came, that 2008, it was a stretch from 2008 to 2011 that I was going through financial turmoil. I was not prepared for it. Okay. Um, we had a lot of debt, which is like many American families, but we weren't really concerned about paying that debt off necessarily. I mean, we were paying our bills, but we weren't concerned in the fact that like we weren't saving in case there wasn't a job, because again, that was kind of weird. Like, who was losing jobs due to layoffs or um, takeovers, and outside that stuff had just started to become popular. So of course, also in 2008, that was the housing crisis, and that had effect on the economy. And so here I was now, the economy, what was going on in the economy, what I did not know about finances, and then the chaos that was going on in my personal life, meaning my marriage and all of that had collided. Okay. And I found myself um, in a huge amount of debt because, silly me, everything was in my name. And because at the time I had the better credit, right? So everything was in my name. And now I had all of this debt to contend with. Okay. Talking about a home, okay, that I had now not been able to afford, talking about a car, talking about medical bills, credit card bills, um, you name it, right? You name it. Things that I could not continue paying anymore because there weren't two incomes in the household, things that had gotten behind. And I didn't really know how to now downsize. I mean, when you're used to living at a certain level, it's hard, right? It's hard to downsize because you want to believe that you can still maintain that level of living. The other piece of it was you didn't want other people to really know about what was going on inside your home, whether it was with your marriage or whether it was your finances, whatever. And so you wanted to keep up, well, I wanted to keep up this facade, if you will, just to call it what it was, right? Keep up this facade that everything was okay. And that hurt. That hurt me a whole lot. And so there was one particular day, and this was after I'd gone through a series of things. Like I said, the divorce and all that. Now we moved from a home to an apartment, which was embarrassing for me. And the thing was, all these things were embarrassing for me, right? They were not. I was thinking, people are looking at me, and they're saying this or that about me. You know how we perceive people are looking at us, which probably was not the case at all, right? But that's what I was thinking. So I've been putting a lot of pressure on myself just because of me thinking, what are other people thinking about me as I go through this? Truth be told, a lot of people didn't even know that I was going through a whole lot of turmoil at that time, right? And so I got to this place where, we're in the new apartment. There's not much in there, okay? No furniture at the time, it's just me, my children, their belongings, my clothes, a little bit of food, and that was it. And finally, I had been crushed under the weight of everything that was going on and the fact that I was trying to keep up appearances, right? And so I broke, right? Because you just come to that period after a while, you just can't carry all of that. And I broke, right? And again, because I wasn't confiding in anyone, I wasn't trying to let go of anything, I was just, and no one can carry all of that. So I broke. And in that moment, and I'm a person of faith, I'm a Christian. And of course, if you're watching this show for any period of time, you'll know that even the title, Dividing Truth, is faith-based. But I just, I didn't know where else to go. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know, I didn't, honestly, I didn't even want to live anymore. That's just where I was, right? I felt like life was over because, again, I was taught, go to school, get your degree, get a great paying job, get married, have some kids, get the house, the car, whatever. So I had done all of that. And once you've done all of that, it's like, well, what else is there, right? So you've done all of that, and now it's all taken away from you, or you lose it all. What else is there? So quite frankly, I just felt like my life was over, and I could not see my way out of it, right? So I want to share with you guys how I got beyond that point, because I had hit bottom, right? Or what they call rock bottom. So I want to share with you guys how I got beyond that point. And before I do that, I just want to remind you that you're listening to Dividing Truth, and we're on Radio Wave. And you can find us at radiowave4u.com. You can click on shows, click on podcasts. You'll get to the podcast either way. You can also download the app. Okay, you can download the Radio Wave app and listen through the app. Or you can also go to the Radio Wave for You Facebook page and listen there, right? Podcasts are posted there. You can actually connect to the app from there. But you definitely want the app, right? Because there are things that go on, music and things like that, maybe that you can hear through the app that you wouldn't hear if you're watching via Facebook or something like that. So make sure you download the app as well so you can get the full experience. Okay. So, and I also want to share with you that specific to this show, I have a Facebook group called Dividing Truth. I'll put up the website, the link for you there, so you see it floating at the bottom of the screen. And that's how you can find the Facebook group. Join the Facebook group, listen, because the conversation continues in the group. The podcast, we only have about 45 minutes or so, an hour, to talk about the topic for that week. And so the Facebook group is a great way to ask questions, regarding the episodes that you see, or ask questions of the guests that have been on the show, because the guests will be inside of the group as well. And so that's just a place where the conversation continues. So I'm inviting you to join the Facebook group, and let's get to know one another in the group. Let's get to know one another in the group, right? So let me continue now with my story. So here we are. I am at this breaking point, right? And I just don't see any way out. Okay. I don't see any way out. But how many of you know that when you are at the bottom, there is nowhere else for you to go but up, right? There's nowhere else for you to go but up. And that particular day, through the night onto the next day, when I woke up the next day, there was a voice, the spirit, which was telling me, look, get up. Okay, get up. And it was so clear. And there were no other instructions that came with that, right? So first of all, it's like, okay, spirit telling me to get up, but get up and do what? What is it exactly that you want me to do? What do you mean? And how many of you know it's really hard to get up and put one foot in front of the other when you don't exactly know what's coming next, right? So you just kind of want to sit there and you want to wait. We want to know. I wanted to know. And I know it's human behavior for us to want to know all of the steps. I need to know A, B, C, D, and E before I even attempt to accomplish A, right? But this was not the case in this situation. So it was this journey that I was beginning was the journey of trust, right? I had to trust God to lead me to the people, places, and things that I would need in order to overcome the situation that I was in. That too was also hard for me because I was a person who always wanted to be in control, right? And I'm going to say was, still am, right? I just know how to work through that. Wanted to be in control of things, right? And so there's no control when you're like, I'm going to take this step, but I don't know where this step is going. I don't know where this step is leading to, right? So that's what I had to do. Well, in the getting up, I want to share with you just some very specific things, because if you're in a situation right now, financially, you're trying to figure out how to get out. I mean, you really haven't made any moves left or right or backwards or forwards or anything because, you're like, I don't know, and I got to know before. I hope that this is helpful to you. So, I first had to make the decision to get up, right? Even though the spirit was telling me to get up, I had to decide, okay, do I want to get up, right? And the truth of the matter is I did. I wasn't raised as someone who just lays down and gets rolled over, right? I was raised that, I fight, I see things through, I persevere. And so I decided, yes, I'm going to get up. I'm going to fight. I don't know what's coming next, okay? But that's okay. I had to come to terms with that. In that getting up, I had to decide, one, I'm getting up, and two, I'm okay with not knowing what's coming next, at least at this point, right? Sometimes God just wants us to be able to put one foot in front of the other, right? Just to put that first foot forward, right? And then it's amazing how God will move people, places, and things. So that was the first thing, getting up, right? Second thing was I had to take responsibility for where I was at. Okay. So, in other words, I had to say, okay, these things are not just happening to me and I didn't have anything to do with it. Yes, there was a crash in the economy. Yes, the job, I had no control over that. And them deciding to bring in new management and all of that. So that meant I had to go because I was part of management. So I had to go. So yes, even though I didn't have control over those things, there was still reasons why I contributed highly to where I was, right? So one, hadn't done a good job of saving, any money, just was living for the day, right? I didn't learn about finances, okay? And so one could probably say that, well, heck, you only knew what you were taught or whatever. But there were little seeds along the way. Now, this is just for me. I don't know about you, but this was just for me. There were little seeds along the way. I had been invited to, um, you know, little workshops here and there to learn about finances. I didn't go. The one I did go to, I really didn't pay, much attention to, because I was just doing my thing, right? I was just doing my thing. So I had to acknowledge that I played a role in where I ended up financially. I played a role, right? And so once I acknowledged my role in it, now, right, I can begin to move forward, okay? Because I couldn't continue to point and say it's this one's fault, that one's fault, even, my ex-husband's fault, even though, okay, he wasn't great with money and he, you know, did leave me with some bills or whatever, I couldn't even, I couldn't point the finger and just say, oh, it's all his fault. None of that, right? So once I came to terms with that, then God moved in amazing ways, right? He put people in my path that introduced me to my financial mentors, who are still my mentors to this day, Todd and Sandra Newkirk. And when I met Todd, literally in like 30 minutes, he has shared with me everything I needed to know in order to get out of. Remember, I said I had been in this position for a stretch, 2008 to 2011. And in 30 minutes changed my life. Just like that, because I had learned simple financial concepts that were that would help me to get out of all of that. So as a result of learning those concepts, I went to work, right? I went to work implementing those concepts, because here's another thing. And I'm podcasting from home, right? So that means that life is happening. So my 4-year-old is in the building, if you will. So that's her voice you just heard. But I so those financial concepts, okay, I learned them, right? But that was not enough. Okay, so some of you out there, you may have learned some things, okay, but you have not implemented those things. You have not taken action on those things. And so that's why you're still in the situation that you're in, right? Because you have to actually take action. Okay. Just having the knowledge, just having the wisdom doesn't change anything. Okay. You've got to do the work. And so for many of us, that's tough because we don't want to do the work, right? We're accustomed to doing what we're doing. Sometimes doing the work requires us changing habits. Sometimes it just, seems like it's going to be hard, and it seems like it may be long, because that's another thing. We want things to happen so quickly. And we just have to do the work, right? So I had to make yet another decision. When I learned the information, what was I going to do with it? And I decided that I was going to do the work, right? So I did the work. And so now I'm not $300,000 worth, in debt. Now all of that stuff that I had, is paid off. All of the bad habits that I had in terms of finances. And I didn't think I really had any bad habits, right? Because I wasn't blowing my money on gambling boats or, tons of clothes and shoes and handbags. And I wasn't doing all of that, but I still needed to do better in terms of saving. And I still had things that I could tweak, even though I wasn't being extremely irresponsible with my money, right? There were some things that I was doing that I was like, well, I don't necessarily have to do this, like getting my hair done every month or getting nails done every 2 weeks. So things like that, right? I may not have necessarily seen them as waste. And I may have felt like these were necessary because, of course, in this society, we are conditioned that, looking good and all of that kind of stuff is extremely important. And it is, but we don't have to spend a whole lot of money to do so, right? So I had to make some changes in my habits. I had to determine, okay, my cell phone bill, for example, did I have to be with the best, company that was charging the most money? No, I didn't have to. There were other companies that can provide the service just as well, right, at a less amount. So I had to make some changes, but a lot of the biggest changes that I had to make they were mental changes, right? So I had to stop worrying about what other people would think about me if I was no longer driving a certain kind of car, or if I didn't have a certain kind of phone carrier, or if I, certain kind of clothing or whatever. These were things in my mind that I had to overcome, right? Because let me share with you, becoming financially free is not necessarily about the money management skills in and of themselves. It is much more about this right here. Okay. It is much more about your money mindset. And what I began to learn was that people who were doing well financially, most who were doing well financially, you wouldn't even know it, right? You wouldn't even know it. They just dress regular. They drive regular cars. I was looking at my mentors, drove regular cars. They were, you would look at them and you wouldn't think that seeing them, as you saw them on the street, like, oh, these people are loaded. You know what I'm saying? Like, no, you wouldn't think that. And so I had to do the work here first. And then as I did the work here mentally, then it started to play out in what I was doing physically with my money, right? As I changed my priorities in here, then my finances would align themselves with that, right? So it was no longer so important that I got my hair done every month. It was no longer, very important to go and get nails done every 2 weeks. Like that, it was now becoming more important to save, right? It was becoming more important to make sure that I had money put away for emergencies, and I had money put away for retirement, and those things were becoming more important. And I learned that I had to figure out, what do I truly value? Okay. And is the way I'm spending my money or saving my money, does it align with the things that I truly value, right? So um I decided, I sat down, I had to figure out, okay, what do I value, right? What's important to me? Family, um, whatever it was, right? What is important to me? And then to make sure that my finances aligned, right? So as I made those changes, again, beginning mentally, then they started to play out physically, right? And then those changes, I start to see myself becoming financially free, right? I started to see that, okay, I was getting out of debt. I started to see that I was um, saving money, and I started to see and watch how things just, changed. Like for me, I'm not a girl, I never really liked shopping per se, right? But I did enjoy, getting some new clothes here and there or whatever. But now, if you ask me, what do I like shopping for? Because I still don't like shopping, but I love shopping for land, and I love shopping for property, and I love shopping for things that's going to give me a return on my money, right? And so last week, I was in the DMV area. My husband and I were shopping for land and property and stuff, and it was fun. It was so fun, right? And when we spend money on that, I'm like, and I don't care how much we spend on that. It's like great, because we're going to get a return. So um, that journey, that was a transition I'd gone through. Again, starting mentally, then the concepts that I learned, um, and beginning to use them, beginning to practice them, right? And again, the concepts were not hard. They weren't. Okay, things like the rule of 72, things like debt stacking, just they weren't hard, right? And so I also realized that if I was able to do this, and it's so simple, and I'm a naturally and spiritually gifted teacher, then I wanted to become part of the financial services industry and help people to become financially free. And another reason why I wanted to do that was because what I learned, okay, also what I learned was that in the traditional financial services industry, they don't want people to learn the simple concepts. They don't. They want you to feel like you've got to take out a 35, 40, 45-year mortgage. They want you to feel like you've got to finance a car. They want you to feel like you've got to have credit cards. They want you to be in debt, right? They want to take advantage of that. They want you paying them for the rest of your life. And as you're paying them, they're taking your money. They're getting rich off of utilizing these simple financial concepts that you don't know, right? And yet, by the time you turn age 65, you can't retire, right? Or if you do retire, it's like a partial retirement, right? Okay, I'm not going to work this 9 to 5 anymore, but I still got to work part-time. I still got to do something, right? You don't have the option to just retire, right? So I wanted to teach. Yeah. So I wanted to teach people. Um, I wanted to teach people how they can become financially free, and I wanted to teach people how to do it in ways that the traditional financial institutions will never, 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 never teach you, because it will put them out of business, right? So that's what led me into the financial services industry. Because honestly, if you had asked me years ago, or if you knew me as a youngster, right, in high school or in college, you knew that I didn't want anything to do with um, numbers. Nothing. Okay, it didn't want nothing to do with numbers. I chose my majors in the things that I was interested in college based on the fact that I didn't have to take a whole bunch of math classes. Okay, I didn't want anything to do with numbers. So it was quite surprising for me to even, yes and no, it was quite surprising for me to be in the financial services industry, because what I realized is that it's really not about the numbers. It is about the numbers, and it's not about the numbers. It's not about complex math. It's simple. Okay, it's simple stuff. And so I hope that in sharing my story today, that this has really helped you. And here are some key things that I want you to take away. Number one, you have to decide that you're going to get up and you're going to fight for your financial freedom, because it is not going to just fall in your lap. It doesn't do that. If you look at um, millionaires of today, okay, like 85% to 90% of them, it's because they did the work, right? Some people think, oh, they just inherited that money or whatever. And there are those who have inherited money. But the majority of people who are financially free, it's because they've done the work, right? So you have to decide that I'm going to fight for my financial freedom, number one. Number two, you then have to decide that you're going to put the first foot forward, right? Whatever that means. Whether it's saying, okay, Lord, lead me to the people that I'm, supposed to go to, or Lord, bring to my memory anything that was taught to me that I could grab a hold of, right? That I can reach back out to some people who were trying to show me, the way, but I just, for whatever reason, wasn't thinking about it. What is the first foot that you could put forward? Can I start getting some books on money? Can I start to read some articles or some blogs? What can I do? What's the first thing that I can do? Because believe me, when you take that first step forward, it will open up doors. Okay, it will open up doors, and don't be scared. I know it's like, well, whose book should I be reading? Don't be scared. Just start getting information and then asking God to give you discernment, right? Because I can't promise you'll never ever make another money mistake. That is absurd to think you won't ever make another money mistake, right? I've made more. I've just been able to recover faster, right? Because of what I know. And I'll probably still make some more, right? Make a decision that should have gone one way versus the other, right? So don't be afraid of that. So take that first foot forward. Begin to get the knowledge because it's out there, right? And you can even reach out to me, right? Because that's what I do all day, every day, is coach people financially, right? And so get the knowledge. Now, once you get the knowledge, it's not enough just to get it. You have actually got to go to work, okay? And work is on two tracks. It's the work here, okay, mentally, overcoming things that you may have been taught about money that are not true, beliefs that you've held that are not true, beliefs like, I'll never be financially free, having money and all that's for other people, it's not for me. Whatever kind of limiting beliefs, those are things that you have to overcome. And how do you do that? Reading books, affirmations about money, reciting those, prayer. What does God say about money? Okay, so this is not even just about what people in the world are saying, but God has great things to say about money. And sometimes we're not taught that even in our churches, right? It's amazing the money mindset that we have as a result of church is so backwards from what God actually teaches. So work on your money mindset and then begin to take action in other tangible ways. Is there a coach I can hire? Is there are there some courses that I can take part of? Are there some mentors, people that I can ask to mentor me, people who are doing well financially, and they can mentor me and show me what they've done? Because again, there's no one path. path, right? There's different paths, and then there's also what makes sense for you. But right now, this is a, time of just gathering a bunch of information and starting to take steps. And then as you go, you will learn what is beneficial for you and your family. I think we get a little afraid there, right? Because we don't want to make a step and then it be not the right thing. But it's what life is about, right? Getting out there, taking risk, doing things. That's what becoming financially free is about. It's about taking risk. Nobody becomes financially free by doing nothing, being safe, all of that, right? So do the work, okay? Do the work. And then finally, share with others, okay? So you may not do it in a formal way that I do it, right? Because this is my livelihood. This is what I get paid to do. But you could share with your children, right? Everything that you're learning, you can share with your children so that we are not raising another generation of people who are not financially free. We cannot continue going down that path, right? So share the knowledge. These are the steps that I took. I may have taken them a little bit differently, but these are the steps that I took. And again, my sharing my story with you today hopefully has been helpful. I want you to know that you may think that you are in the worst financial situation of all. I have still yet to encounter anyone who has been worse off than I was in 2008. I haven't found it yet. I have not found it in all my years, 2012 and on, because that's when I became a licensed financial coach. I have not yet sat down with anyone who has had a situation worse than mine, right? So don't feel like your situation is hopeless, because it's not. As long as you are living and breathing, there is hope, right? As long as you're willing, there is hope. As long as you desire it, financial freedom is yours, right? And it starts with you, okay? So confront the excuses. That's the other part of getting up. So let me review these steps again. Getting up is making the decision, okay, that you are going to become financially free, whatever it takes. It's confronting your role in, where you are right now, okay? 2, then making the decision that you're going to put that first foot forward. We've talked about that, right? And then number 3, taking action, implementing what you learn, okay? And number 4, sharing it with others. So again, I hope that this has been helpful for you all today. That's all that we have for this episode of Dividing Truth. Again, we're a weekly podcast sharing financial truths to help women entrepreneurs and professionals become financially free in these uncertain times. And again, thank you for joining me and listening. You've been listening to Dividing Truth, Radio Wave, and you can find Radio Wave at www.radiowave4you.com, or you can download the Radio Wave app, or you can go to the Radio Wave for You Facebook page for Dividing Truth show specifically. We have a Facebook group for Dividing Truth. And you can just search Dividing Truth on Facebook to find the group, because conversation will continue in there. And then I also have, if you're actually wanting to learn, okay, about finances, if you're actually wanting to learn, okay, because the Facebook group for the show really is just about continuing that conversation. But if you really just want to get into the nitty gritty and learn, I'm also going to share with you, I have a Facebook group called Money Mastery for Her. And even though it's called Money Mastery for Her, it is for women and men alike. Men can join the group. Just know that I'm when I teach and things like that, I'm often coming from a women's perspective for women. But the concepts that are being taught are for anyone, okay? So if you want like that nitty gritty teaching, then join Money Mastery for Her. I'd love to see you in the group. And that's all we have for today. And I will see you next time. Peace.
Audio Jungle.